All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the celebration of my book, The Early County Massacre. This is a very important story, and some of you on here I know just got the book or maybe don't have the book yet. So I'm going to give a little overview of the story. This is what's already on my website. I just have a couple of rules for the meeting that we all stay on mute if someone else is talking and try to keep one person talking at a time. Also, I'm going to try my hardest, and we should all try to avoid spoilers. For the people that have not gotten to the end of the book yet, try not to have too many spoilers. So, the information that I'm going to present now is about as far as I'm going to go into the story. But I do have creative ways of answering certain questions that, but I want to be aware of how people read and how they want to, kind of savor the story. So, um, yes. So the Early County Massacre began on Tuesday, December 28th, 1915, when white overseer Henry J. Villepigue viciously attacked Ulysses Goolsby, a black teenager who was on his way to a wedding reception with his friends in Early County, Georgia. Ulysses' father, prominent farmer Grandison Goolsby, went to Henry's house on the following day to find out what caused the attack, and Henry greeted him by shooting at him. Grandison returned fire, fatally wounding Henry. Once the Early County sheriff heard that a white man had been killed by a black man, several lynching mobs were formed that terrorized the black communities and killed members of the Goolsby family over the following 3 days. The tragedy was covered in newspapers all across the country and in Europe. And this next image here is just a few of the headlines, and all of these come from the front page of various newspapers. So I created this map here. This map shows the location of each lynching in the Early County Massacre. The people killed are Simon Goolsby, Early Hightower, Grandison Goolsby, Ed Law, and Precious Hall. Several of them used gunfire to defend themselves from the lynching mobs. And if you come to my website and go to this page, you can read a little bit more about each of the victims and the locations of where they were killed by the lynching mobs. I also have some photos that I put up here. Um, Actually, I don't think any of the photos I put up here are in the book. So that's kind of why I have them up here. So if you have the book, you have a special set of photos that um, they're unpublished. They haven't been published really anywhere. So this photo is actually on the cover, and I still wanted to keep it on the cover. The folks in the family know I'm still trying to identify the man on the left here. We do not know who he is. We have an idea of who he might be, but we don't know who he is. So if anybody that's in the family recognizes this man, please let me know. Uh, in the back middle here is Kilman Mosey, the son of Martha Mosey. Uh, on the right is Roosevelt Goolsby, the son of Grandison and Mary Goolsby. And sitting here is Nathaniel Hawthorne Goolsby, another son of Grandison and Mary Goolsby. And there's other photos. There's arrows on the right if you want to skip. We also don't know who's in this photo. So if anybody recognizes this photo, please let us know. We don't know where it is, who's in it, but it was in the Goolsby family photos. And the rest of these, I think we know who these are. That's Grandison's aunt, Charlotte. That's Grandison's sister-in-law, Laura. That is Grandison's nephew, which is my uncle, Clarence Bass. This is Char's grandfather, Mike Goolsby. This is Mike's first cousin, Kilman Mosey. I took this picture at Pleasant Grove Church, which was Grandison Goolsby's church. I was at the same spot yesterday, actually. And there's the church, Pleasant Grove AME Church. And here's one of the indictments that I got from the Early County Courthouse for Charlie Holmes. and the arrest warrant for Ulysses Goolsby. And this is more of the warrant, the inside of the warrant. And yeah, those are some of the photos I have up here. Grandison's two oldest sons, Ulysses and Mike, were with him when he shot Henry Villepigue, and therefore also accused of murdering a white man. They were not lynched because Martin Hash Jewell and Edward Jewell transported them to Cedar Springs, Georgia, before the lynching mobs formed. The Goolsby brothers stayed in Cedar Springs with their granduncle, Ed Law, until he brought them to the train station at midnight. They escaped to Mississippi, but were caught 3 weeks later, brought back to Georgia, and convicted of murdering Henry Villepigue. And these are pictures of the cover of the trial information that I found in the courthouse. You can see the courthouse in the back. I found these in 2020. Mary Hutchins Goolsby, mother of Ulysses and Mike, owned hundreds of acres of land before the massacre. She sold her plantation and hired lawyers from Atlanta for her sons. Counselors William Chenault Monday and Gibson Hill Cornwell kept fighting for the Goolsbys up to the Supreme Court of Georgia and even appealed to Governor Hugh Dorsey. These are records that I got at the Georgia Archives here in Atlanta, where they keep the Supreme Court of Georgia records. And here we are, the full story. It's finally here today. The Early County Massacre, Goolsby versus State of Georgia. And you can order on Amazon if you don't have it yet. I've got to change this button. Instead of saying pre-order, I'll just have to change it to order because it's not a pre-order anymore. You order it and you will get it. So I want to thank you all for being here. Next, I'm gonna introduce my newfound cousin, Shar Goolsby, and talk about her work. And I would like to actually ask her a few questions about her experience reading the book and just whatever we want to talk about. So, but first I want to say I found Shar. I'm gonna stop sharing now. I found Shar last year after looking for her for years because she did have an Ancestry account. And so I could see that this person is clearly the granddaughter of Mike Goolsby. But you know how, especially the genealogists that are on here, you know, sometimes people don't respond when you send them messages because they're not checking their Ancestry messages. It's not like a text message or an email or a Facebook message. So I had to get creative, you know, and really, really zero in on finding her. And I'm very proud that I did. And within a couple of weeks of finding her, we were in her car driving to Blakely. And that was the first time that any of Mike Goolsby's descendants went to Blakely. So it's been quite a journey. It's been very rewarding, and I'm grateful for that experience. And Shar is it's been wonderful to hang out with and get to know. And it's like we're both rediscovering our family together. So I'm gonna let Shar say a few words, whatever's on your heart, and yeah, just thank you all again for being here.
Thank you, Orice. Thank you everybody for being here too. What's on my heart? One thing I wanted to say. So yesterday, Orice and I were in Blakely with his mom and aunt, and we went to a barbershop to do a book signing. And the lady that operates the museum in Blakely asked me what it was like when I first heard the story. And at the time, I didn't have like words. I wasn't prepared for her question. So I came home and I thought about it. And one of the things was when Orice first told me, because I didn't know the full detail. So when Orice first told me the story, like my heart was broken to know the experiences my ancestors had to go through, and they weren't the only ones. But it's horrible that people had to live these experiences. And then the other thing is just, it makes sense to me that I am who I am and I do what I do, because I study generational trauma. And so I understand experiences that I've had that aren't mine per se, but how I'm experiencing, I guess, the sensations or the aftermaths because of what they experienced. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Thank you, Shar, for sharing that. I noticed the name of your father coming on to the call. Is he listening at this moment?
He is. He's downstairs. I'm upstairs.
Great. Well, I just want to recognize him um, as the grandson of Grandison Goolsby and honor him. And I'm just grateful, Mr. Goolsby, that you're on. I'm gonna tell your age because we're proud of that. That he will be 88 years old in September. So, yes, he's the youngest son of Mike Goolsby, one of the main subjects of the book. So glad that you're on here, and I'm glad that you also have a copy of the book. Um, Star, I have one more question for you.
Mhm.
Um, a couple of weeks ago, we also went to Blakely, and we got to sit in a living room with the Hutchins family, which is the family of your great grandmother, Mary. How did that feel to be reunited with them? And then we took a caravan together to Pleasant Grove Church, got to go inside Pleasant Grove Church, which was my first time and your first time in the church. Um, my ancestors started that church during slavery, and we got to sit in there and have fellowship. And I'm just wondering how did that feel for you to be connected with that side of the family as well?
it it filled a hole that has always kind of existed. I've been on this search for family for a really long time, and just connecting ever since I was little. Like, me or you, well, you and I have joked, like, I grew up with 10 cousins but had no idea there were so many more of us, and I miss having that. So that's what that felt like every time, even the first time going home. I'm about to say it again, going home to Blakely, like, that is home to me. No other place in this world has felt like home until going to Blakely the one time and just planting my feet on the same earth. It feels like home, and it fills me. It like fills my cup. Even yesterday, my cup was overflowing just being back, being around the new cousins that I met. So it just feels like home, and it just fills me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here. Also want to recognize that Shar wrote the foreword to the book. So thank you for adding that. I think everybody I think that has the book has read the foreword already. So I get lots of texts like, I love Shar's foreword, and I just love getting that response because it's a great way to set off the story, I think, and also shows the strength and the survival of the Goolsby family, that you're still here and able to share with us. Um, okay, one more thing. I know I said that already, but can you talk about your work a little bit and a little bit of your vision for how you want to help people and help the community of Early County, Georgia?
Okay. I am a trauma therapist. I used to do physical therapy, and this is my retirement job. So I study generational trauma, ancestral trauma, how that impacts us, and it has an impact on mental health. So first generation, whether it's slavery, war, oppression, racism, hard physical labor, they have one experience, and then there are genetic modifications of the expression of the genes that show up in following generations. So that shows up as anxiety, depression, neurodivergence, which is like ADHD, ADD, things like complex PTSD, highly sensitive kids. So there's a mental health component. So I study that. And then I also make the connection between that stress, like the mental health, but also how that stress impacts our physiology. So that's what I explore. I have a couple of projects. The one project I really want to bring to Blakely has been a really long dream, and it is coming together, but it essentially is a wellness retreat sanctuary center that is accessible for the community to use. So spa retreat services, holistic medicine, acupuncture, yoga, that kind of thing. And then I want to put on site a special trauma center for women veterans. Part of my trauma focus is people connected to the military. So I would like to do that, and specifically for women veterans, because there is just not enough available for them. And so I want to mimic the VA programs for trauma recovery. It would be like 12 to 16 week inpatient recovery programs. And it might have something like an equestrian center and art therapy and different things to incorporate into the healing process. And then adjacent to that, it's a lot, it's a really big thing. But adjacent to that, I want to create a sustainable farm and sustainable housing for people who are separating from the military, and to help family reintegration, like after deployment, after separation from the military, provide career counseling and development for these persons leaving the military, their families, as well as the community. It's a really big vision. If you go to my website, chargoolsby.com, there's a link to like my YouTube page, and it'll show like the video that kind of conceptualizes my idea. But I really hope that it's something that I can bring. And I wanted to bring it to Blakely because I want to bring something that's going to create healing, that supports the community, that, because we all suffer regardless of how trauma is caused racially, whether it's being enslaved or being a descendant of an enslaver. We all experience those same genetic impacts. It shows up in us the same way. We have the same issues. So I just want to create a collective space for communal healing.
Thank you, Shar. I appreciate you. And yes, go to her website and check out what she's got going on. You can also get to her website from my website. So um, we are linked like that. Um, I next would like to call on another relative who is on the line. First, I'm going to share this photo with you all. This is in the book. Hopefully, you can all see this photo. But this photo is one of my favorite photos in the book. This is a couple, and I think the endurance of their love is really special to me when I think about what happened um, the week they got married. This is the couple that was getting married when Ulysses Goolsby was trying to get down the road. Um, this is the wedding reception, or as they called it, the infare that he was trying to get to. The woman on the left is Leela Smith Powell, and that was a cousin of Grandison Goolsby. And the man on the right is Major John Powell. And Major was also a lodge brother of Grandison Goolsby. So um, this is another branch of the family that I really wanted to reach out to. And unlike Shar, this branch responded immediately. So I want to recognize cousin Bryce Williams, who is on the call right now, and ask him to unmute for a second because he and I have had some pretty interesting conversations, and just want to shout out that side of the family and get your thoughts. Have you had a chance to read the book, Bryce?
I got about 20 pages left.
Okay, well, yeah, you read the book then. But you have any thoughts about it so far?
Um, Man, I don't know. Where do I start? Um, I don't know. I would say in general, I mean, it was great to hear from you because, like, I had gotten into the family research stuff probably a little more than a decade back, and kind of hit a brick wall. And I don't even know how I saw your message because I hadn't signed in so long. Maybe I just happened to see the email, um, and I had been given a very brief kind of explanation of the story from my great grandmother, Lila Mae's daughter. Um,
What did she tell you?
so she told me, if I recall correctly, that it was actually Lila and Major who had this confrontation with the buggies on the road. Um, and that it was about like not giving way on the road to a white man, that it just erupted into violence. And of course, they referred to it as a riot. And I remember that was one of the first things that stood out to me. And your message was like, no, this is a massacre. Like, let's be clear about what happened here, which was, the story for many Black people, particularly across the South. Like, they, in many cases, did nothing. And the response was massive and violent. And so I don't know, I guess that stood out to me. Like, let's make this clear that this wasn't necessarily like, oh, the problem with the Blacks. They like this. This is a result of white supremacy, and state sanctioned violence. Um, and I think you really made that point where you mentioned the newspaper editor that was shouting out the Goolsbys and a few other successful Black people as exemplary Negroes. It's more the Negroes could be more like them, we wouldn't have all these problems that we have. Yet, fast forward a few years, and you're unleashing mobs on these exemplary Negroes because, I mean, that's just the society that they were living in. The slightest infraction or believed infraction could end your community.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you, Bryce. I want to add to that because, and Shar said this earlier too, that this is not the only story like this. And of course, we know that already because we've seen the Tulsa race riot, is what it was called for many years. And then they said, no, we need to rebrand this because it was not a riot. This was a massacre. This was not a back and forth type of thing. This was, like you said, white supremacy. Um, and really what I call racial terror as well. It was domestic terrorism. And also I saw Dr. Candy Tate come on, who I know works with the commemoration for the Atlanta race massacre of 1906. Very similar thing. You have prosperous Black communities. Rosewood is another one. Rosewood, Florida. Prosperous Black communities that, like Bryce pointed out in the newspaper, they're doing great things. Grandison Goolsby was the model citizen of Blakely, Georgia. He was not an angry person. He was not trying to hurt anybody. He was living the life that they said we're supposed to live. Pull yourselves up by your bootstraps and go on and do what you're supposed to do. And that's what he was doing. And then, until they burned it all down. So, Dr. Candy Tate, I see you came on camera. Would you like to say anything about the Atlanta Race Massacre and what you have going on coming up?
Thank you so much, Orice, for just giving me a moment of time, and good evening, everyone, family. Yes, I'm the co-chair for the commemoration, the Coalition to Remember the 1906 Atlanta Race Massacre. It happened September 22nd through the 25th in 1906. And we each year have been doing a remembrance events in commemoration of that. So our website is 1906 Atlanta Race Massacre.org to sign up to get information if you're in the area or know family and friends who are. We would love to be a part. But we did the same. I came in late, but the same thing that 2 years ago did a rebranding from Atlanta Race Riot to Race Massacre. There were 25 known deaths, and we're commemorated at EJI with a marker for Fulton County. And Orice, I saw your picture going there. So if any of you in the sound of my voice have not been to Montgomery, it is a moving experience that will bring you to tears to see the over 4,000 victims that are documented. As I say, we can probably know that there are even more than that. My other hat that I wear is I'm the curator for the Legacy Museum at Tuskegee University, and have come to know that the research on those over 4,000 victims actually originated from a professor and his wife at Tuskegee, Monroe Work and his wife. So we're intimately involved. Learn your family genealogy and share it with next generations so they know the importance of family history and story. Because you just never know where those lines will lead to being connected to this history. And that's how Orice and I found out that we're family from, and as I say, we had to be family because we're working on the same project, but that we really are family. So thank you for this moment to speak.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're able to make it on. I know you're very, very busy. And yeah, I was going to make sure we mention that Dr. Candy Tate is my cousin. I'm very proud of that. And Shar, she's probably related to you too, because I know, Shar, your grandmother was from Greensboro, Georgia. And so a lot of the Greene County connections and the Morgan County connections in Georgia, we're all kind of mixed up in there too. So grateful to have you on. Let's see. There was something I was going to say, and I've already forgotten it. But again, thank you, everybody that has spoken so far. Oh, I know what it was. The commemoration. I'm calling it commemoration. I think the coalition to remember the Atlanta Race Massacre is very important. I'm hoping to be there with you all in September, which is actually my birthday. The Atlanta Race Massacre happened on my birthday, and that's where I want to spend my birthday this year, is helping them remember that. And also, I'm taking some ideas of things that we can do in Early County, because this story, it's not really a rebranding, because this story has never been told like it has in my book. There's no other book about it. There's one chapter of Cissy Houston's book and one chapter of John Rufus Harris's book, but there's not been a full, front to cover exploration of these events. So I would like to also start something annually in Blakely, especially with the families that are in the book. And I know a lot of you, the reason I had this virtually is because so many of you are all over the country. We have Ohio, we have Michigan, we have Georgia, but not Blakely. We have people in Atlanta, and we have people that might want to support our mission to remember this event all over the country as well. So hopefully we can get that started this year, which would be the last week of December. So if you are related and you have connections to this family, or even if you just want to come and support what we're trying to do, mark your calendars for the last week of December. And I'm so grateful that also the Mason Lodge, Grandison's Mason Lodge, Starlight 95, has agreed to do a ceremony in Grandison's name, which they were not able to do during the massacre when he died. So they're going to have a Mason ceremony for him. We're going to probably do something at the lodge for him, getting them a picture of Grandison that they can hang in the lodge as they've requested, because he is a founding member of the lodge, which is still there. Obviously, it had to be rebuilt after it was burned to the ground, but they rebuilt it, and it's still there and still, a part of the lodge. So, Black-owned land since 1893 is not something to shy away from telling that story. So grateful for that. And yeah, thank you so much for speaking. All my cousins, I just love seeing all my cousins on here. And I want to open it up for any questions or comments. And I'm going to go through the chat as well and see if there's anything in there. But yes, I'm here to answer whatever. And feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question.